After King Tutankhamun died, his body was taken to the pharaoh's traditional burial site, where he was buried in a tomb and sealed. That was supposed to be the end of the story. Except that, of course, it wasn't. In the 1920s, the discovery of the young pharaoh's tomb made sensational headlines, partly because of the supposed curse that was believed to have affected those who uncovered it. Tutankhamun became king at the age of 9 during the 18th dynasty of ancient Egypt, following the death of his father Akhenaten. When he wasn't busy being king, he enjoyed spending quality time with his family. And by family, we mean his half-sister Ankhesenamun. Tutankhamun married his half-sister because, apparently, that was just how things were done back then. Unfortunately, their attempts at starting a family were met with tragedy as their 2 children didn't survive. Around 1325 BCE, young Tutankhamun met an untimely demise while still in his teenage years. Even though he only ruled for a short time, every detail of his funeral was extravagant. He was lavishly embalmed, decked out in jewelry, wrapped up tight, and laid to rest in a series of ornate coffins. Buried along with him were all his favorite treasures: furniture, weapons, and even chariots. The discovery. So, there was a British Earl of Carnarvon named George Edward Stanhope Molyneux of Herbert who loved nothing more than the excitement of horse racing and the speed of cars. But after a bad car accident, he lost his need for speed, and his doctors told him to go somewhere with different weather to help him get better. Lord Carnarvon, along with his wife, decided to ditch the gloomy English weather and move to Egypt to bask in the dry heat. It was there that he discovered his new passion for Egyptology and archaeology. He wasted no time in starting his own private excavation. Lord Carnarvon hungered for something bigger. He knew he needed help, and he was lucky to find the right person: Howard Carter. Carter had been working in Egypt for years and had a good name as a skilled Egyptologist and archaeologist. Lord Carnarvon decided to fund Carter's search for the pharaoh's tomb. They collaborated on various smaller-scale projects for almost 10 years before Carnarvon obtained permission to excavate in and around the Valley of the Kings. Lord Carnarvon grew impatient as the team found some minor tombs but made little progress. He considered stopping the excavation and stopping Carter's funding, but after some reflection and discussion with Carter, he agreed to fund one more season of digging. Someone in the excavation team stumbled upon a rock that seemed to be sticking out of the ground, and upon closer inspection, Carter and his team realized that it was actually a carved step. The next day's digging uncovered a mud-plastered doorway with an upper section and 12 steps leading down to the chamber below. This discovery was significant because the plaster was still intact and decorated with cartouches, small oval or circular seals with hieroglyphics that bore the symbols of the valley's ancient guards. Given the region's centuries of grave robbing and excavation, this suggested that whoever was buried there had gone unnoticed for millennia. Instead of continuing with his team, Howard Carter ordered the newly discovered stairway to be covered in dirt and rock. He then sent a telegram to his sponsor and employer, Lord Carnarvon, saying, "We found something incredible in the valley, a grand tomb with intact seals. We've covered it again so you can be the first to see it." After what must have felt like an eternity, the moment had finally arrived for Howard Carter and his team. In the company of Lord Carnarvon, the team uncovered the stairs again. It was bittersweet because they saw that the door had been broken into. However, the excitement of discovering Tutankhamun's long-lost tomb quickly overshadowed their disappointment. The curse. So there was this legendary tale of the curse of the pharaohs that warned of terrible things happening to anyone who dared disturb the tomb of an Egyptian pharaoh. Apparently, the curse brings bad luck, sickness, and even death. It just so happened that a few months after the tomb's discovery, Lord Carnarvon accidentally scraped a mosquito bite on his cheek while shaving. Unfortunately for Carnarvon, things only got worse from there. He developed blood poisoning from the infection in his cut, which then caused a fever and eventually pneumonia. A letter was sent to the New York World magazine 2 weeks before Lord Carnarvon's death. warning of the terrible punishment that was in store for him if he visited the tomb. And then he died. You can imagine the reaction. Before you knew it, the curse of Tutankhamun was the talk of the town. Lord Carnarvon's death was just the beginning of a string of unfortunate events associated with the discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb. It was almost like the supposed curse was in full swing. Even Ali Camel Fahmy B, an Egyptian aristocrat who visited the tomb in the early 1920s, couldn't escape its grasp. His wife shot him dead not long after his visit. And George J. Gould, an American financier who caught a fever during his trip to Egypt, didn't make it back home. Sir Archibald Douglas Reeve, the first person to X-ray King Tut's mummy, also met a mysterious end in 1924. All these occurrences were enough to make even the most rational person wonder if there was something more at play here. Is the curse fact or fiction? With so many people dying after the tomb was discovered, it was surprising that Howard Carter, the man primarily responsible for the excavation, was untouched. The long-dead king would have first cursed him if he was going to do so. But it turns out that Carter lived for almost 20 years after his famed discovery. He passed away at the ripe old age of 64 from Hodgkin's lymphoma. It's not exactly a death by mummy scenario, but it's still a pretty normalish way to go. And for the others who were present when the tomb was first opened, in the next 12 years, only 8 people out of nearly 60 would perish. Not exactly a massacre brought on by a curse. The legend of King Tutankhamun's tomb is puzzling, but not for the reason you might think. The real mystery is how Howard Carter managed to discover it after all those years. But the artifacts found within the tomb have shed light on Egypt's illustrious past and culture. If you're feeling adventurous, you can pay a visit to the Egyptian Museum in Cairo and experience the wonder for yourself. And who knows, maybe you'll be the one to finally prove the curse. Spoiler alert, you won't. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. And while you're here, be sure to check out our video on the intriguing mystery surrounding the lost city of Atlantis.